Court resumes in Dedham, Massachusetts on Tuesday, where the state will continue its case in chief. Last year, Karen Reed's first trial ended in a mistrial after the jury could not reach a unanimous verdict on the charges, including second-degree murder. Reed faces up to life behind bars if convicted. Next week, the Commonwealth continues its case, while the defense continues to focus on poking holes in the investigation through cross-examination, which includes former Trooper Michael Proctor, who was fired for misconduct. Court TV lead anchor Vinnie Politan takes a look back.
The case against Karen Reed centers on allegations that she struck her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, with her SUV and left him to die in the snow outside of 34 Fairview Road in Canton on January 29th, 2022. A pivotal figure in the investigation is former Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor, who led the initial inquiry.
Would you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
Trooper Michael Proctor, Proctor.
During the first trial, Proctor admitted to sending derogatory and profane text messages about Reed, referring to her with offensive slurs and expressing a desire for her to harm herself. He also joked about searching her phone for nude photographs.
You see a message sent from Trooper DeChico on August 17th, 2022 at 9:42 p.m.
Yes, these came from me. Funny, I'm going through his client's phone. No nude so far. I hate that man. I truly hate him.
Those revelations led to his suspension and eventual termination from the state police for misconduct, including sharing confidential information and consuming alcohol while on duty. The defense argues that Proctor's bias compromised the integrity of the investigation, suggesting that O'Keefe was killed during a confrontation inside the house and that evidence was manipulated to frame Reed. They point to Proctor's unprofessional conduct and alleged connections to individuals present at the party as indicative of a broader cover-up.
Now, you didn't hear his name in the prosecution's opening statement. Not once. And I suspect that was probably by design. But make no mistake about it. The evidence will show in this case that Michael Proctor is the very definition of the Commonwealth's case. And he's also their Achilles heel.
As the retrial unfolds, the credibility of the investigation and the role of Trooper Proctor remains central to the defense's argument for reasonable doubt. But now some are wondering whether he will even be called to the witness stand.
Karen, do you think they're going to call Trooper Proctor or not?
Nope.
Will the defense?
TBD.
Well, as you heard Vinnie just mention right there, one of the reasons that Proctor was fired was due to those inappropriate text messages that he was sending about defendant Karen Reed, like this one.
She's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
And while on the stand this year for the retrial, Sergeant Yuri Buchanan, who was Trooper Proctor's boss, read some of those disturbing text messages. Take a listen.
Funny, I am going through his client's phone.
Is that your comment?
No, it is not.
Okay, next.
It appears to be the same person because of the way that the extraction happens, and it says no nudes so far. Again, I believe it's the same person because all of these are identified as sent. It says, I hate that man. I truly hate him.
Do you have any belief that's Michael Proctor who was writing these?
Yes, I believe that is.
Oh, Trooper Michael Proctor brought up quite a bit in the retrial. Let's find out what our guests think about it. Joining us this hour, still with us, is criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor David Gelman and former prosecutor, civil and criminal defense attorney Randolph Rice. Randolph, to you first. I want you to play the role of the prosecutor in all of this. How do you minimize these texts that were read at trial number 2?
You can't. And I think really honestly, Matt, that they should have leaned in a little bit harder. And part of me believes they should have called Proctor to the stand and let him owe up to it. Let him take the heat. Let him explain all the bad things he did and how he lost a coveted job with the state police. And then the jury could see exactly what kind of person he is, but at least they get that out of the way. They've hidden it a little bit by having Buchanan read this, and I understand it. And that was, I think, maybe a smart move, but I wonder if the jury gets back there and says, you know, why didn't we hear from Proctor? Why didn't we get to see him on the stand?
Yeah, and David, I want you to take the defense point of view of that. How are they going to double down on this? Will they call him to the stand? You heard Karen Reed right there tell me outside the courthouse. Remember, everybody else is under a gag order. Her defense team can't speak like they did each and every day after court. Prosecutors, obviously, they're not going to talk. But I asked her, will the defense be calling Proctor if the state doesn't? She said TBD. Are they going to do it? What's your spidey sense tell you?
You know, by the way, I think the defense probably wishes that the judge gave an order for Karen Reed not to talk as well. just throw it out there. But
they
I
didn't.
think the
You're
defense
saying that they
has to-
should have? You're saying that they should have?
Yeah,
They didn't.
I don't want her talking. Would you? I mean, come on, Randolph. None of us would want her talking. I don't
Nope.
think it would be it's beneficial for her to say anything in her defense, inside or outside of the trial. Personally, I just think that the jury will look at it and just not think very well of it. But that's neither here nor there. But as for your question, Matt, I think the defense has no choice but to call Proctor, and I think they should call Proctor because he has been the crux of their defense the whole time. I mean, when you bring his name up prominently in your opening statement and say that, you know, he's the reason for all of this, or one of the main reasons, the Achilles, that was the name given, was the word given, I think they should. And then they can really muddy the waters that way. I also agree with Randolph. Why didn't the state bring him up? And should have brought him up at the very beginning. You know, look, mea culpa. Let him just put it all out there so you're not hiding anything. Because if you're hiding something, the jury will see that. Now, if the defense has to bring him up, and he's going to have to read each and every text message that he said derogatory about Karen Reed, the women on the trial, and the jury especially, are not going to look favorably towards that.
And you know, I have never, ever seen a defense call the lead investigator, who usually sits at the prosecution table, as one of their witnesses. Randolph, how does that look different? Is the scope different? Does the cross become different? Is he a hostile witness? Paint me a picture of how this is going to look.
Well, certainly it changes the dynamic of the questioning, because remember, when you're asking questions on cross, you get to ask those leading questions. Though the questions that you want answered yes or no, or you get to frame them exactly the way you want to ask them and answer them. When you call them as a direct witness, you're asking open-ended questions, which allows theoretically Proctor to answer any way he gets to want to answer those questions. So it's not ideal for the defense. And I agree with you, Matt. I can't remember a long time since I've seen the defense have to call a lead investigator or somebody who presumably should have been in the state's case.
And how do you think it's going to be framed, David?
You know, I agree with you guys. I think it's not. This is probably the first time I've ever heard of a witness who should be from the state who would potentially testify for the defense. However, look, this case is very unlike most cases anybody has ever seen. So there's probably a lot of firsts that have already been involved with this type of thing. But I agree with Randolph. Look, open-ended questions are not going to be very good, but I think the defense, they really are doing a good job of anticipating what is coming at them. So they know what they're going to have to ask. They probably have a good idea of what Proctor is going to say in his response, and they're going to have questions in response to Proctor's response. So I think they're going to have no choice. They're going to have to call him, and it's going to be fireworks when they do.